Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, brothers in arms, World of Warships, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at a game that I had in the Colorado, the Tier 7 American battleship. I'm divvied up on EU with my buddy Angelstone, and he's playing in the Scharnhorst, the Tier 7 Premium German battleship, and we're playing some domination here on the map Hotspot. So, as promised, my American battleship grind continues on the EU server, and I did just manage to get through the Colorado a couple days ago. And statistically, I performed pretty well with it, almost 100,000 average damage. Obviously, the move from Tier 6 to Tier 7 brings you into contact with a lot more dangerous and deadly ships. So the stats are still really good, and I enjoyed the grind in this ship, and this is one that, like the New Mexico, like the New York, I hadn't grinded through since, I think, 2016. And if you guys remember all the way back then, the Colorado was a much different ship, at least in a few key areas regarding its statistics. It had a lot less hit points, it did not have the buffed American heel, it had a much slower reload, I think. One of the original versions of the Colorado had like a 40-second reload, and then it went to 35 or 34. I don't remember exactly. That was just a little bit before my time, but I do remember playing through the iteration of the Colorado back in 2016, and I was definitely not a fan of it. But this ship has seen some love over the years, and while it's certainly not one of the best Tier 7 battleships, it can still get the job done in the hands of a competent player. And in continuing with the American Standard type battleship design, this is, I guess, the pinnacle that you're going to play here as you grind up through the American battleships. Now, obviously, there's not too much of a difference in comparison to the others. It's very slow still. It has good maneuverability. It has adequate AA. But of course, the big kicker with this ship at Tier 7 is that it has access to 8 16-inch guns. And 16-inch guns are capable of doing quite a bit of damage. So what you lose in barrel count from the New Mexico, you gain in Alpha Strike, and you also gain in reload. This does have a 30-second flat base reload, which is nice. So you definitely gain a little bit in firepower. In my opinion, I've always kind of preferred gun caliber over gun count, simply because the extra gun caliber gives you more damage on a citadel, better penetration, generally speaking. So that's just how I've always viewed it, and with a ship like the Colorado that is pretty accurate. You saw right there, the first salvo of the game on a more or less bow and Fusion, I still managed to get two nice over penetrations and get some base resets before he uses his smokescreen to go inside. Now, let me think. Anything else regarding the stats? No, it's pretty similar to the Tier 5 and 6, just a little bit different guns, and you still want to get to those central locations of the map. Because you're so slow, you really don't want to be going out on the flanks, because it just takes so long to get there. As I get two more overpens on that destroyer with a nice little blind shot about 15 seconds after he went undetected. So 4 big hits on that destroyer. He's already down to about half hit points with the damage that I've dealt. And right there, just showcasing the better and improved accuracy and sigma that you have with the Colorado over ships like the New York and the New Mexico. Even though only 8 guns, was still able to get some really good shots in on that very angled destroyer. But yeah, going back to the positioning, you really want to take central locations, and you do have the range, 21.8 kilometers, to reach out and touch people, as well as having a spotting aircraft to boot. But finding those central locations where you can really get into good positions to have most of the map under your gun range is very imperative in this ship, and in the American battleships as well. Also, on that Colorado, I had 3 shell hits, 2 pens, and 1 overpen for just over 10,000 points of damage to get up to about 14.4 here early on in the game. Now you can see that there are basically 2 battle groups, a trio of friendlies off to the east, and basically the rest of the team over here to the western side of the map. And we need to take care of the ACAP, and we need to push through and kill the Byron, the Chapayev, and the Colorado that's over here to try to establish some form of map control, because the enemy team is basically doing reverse push, and they're going to be, well, they've already captured C, and they're going to run over our friendly ships that are over in that general area. So we need to hurry up on this side and kill these enemy ships, and then go and about face to adjust and deal with that push that's inevitably going to be coming. Now, as the Gato makes a big mistake, he's below 12 kilometers, and he's kind of sailing broadside, so obviously my next salvo is going to go downrange at him. And you know, the position that I have right now is perfectly fine. I know that my friends are going to push out down the 1 and 2 line, so I actually feel kind of comfortable actually going into A and trying to get a different angle to work with on those guys. Because obviously when the Chapayev and the Colorado have to turn to their right to move away from my friends that are pushing up the 1 and 2, I'm going to be in position, hopefully, to get some broadside shots on them. And also, I forgot to mention, this is a double carrier game. Now, to be fair, it's only tier 6 CVs, but carriers these days, obviously, we don't really need to talk about them that much. They're pretty strong. I think it's safe to say that they're pretty strong. So, obviously, our movement is going to be impaired a little bit because we're going to be detected for the majority of this game. Now, unfortunately, that Fushin that's slowing down, I try to get a nice little shot off as he goes undetected. Unfortunately, the dispersion was just a little bit on the bad side, and I only get 1 over penetration on that destroyer, and I take him down to 322 hit points, and this is actually going to come back to bite me in the butt a little bit here. So, just take count. That's 1 ship right there that I really felt that I could have got the kill secure on if I just had 1 extra shell hit. So keep that in mind as we continue to check out this replay. I decided to get the spotter plane active and throw a salvo downrange at the Furious, who is kind of compromised in that C6 grid square, trying to turn in. I didn't really have another better target to shoot at. Maybe the Nagato that's out in front of me, I could have probably turned to the left and tried to get some shots at him but I just felt that maybe throwing a cursory salvo downrange at the Furious might have gotten some really good damage, or yeah, basically just trying to deal damage, I guess, as I get another salvo going downrange at that British tier 6 carrier. Again, the position that I'm in is fine. I'm still waiting for my friends to continue their push around the western side of the map, so then I can really start to apply some pressure to those guys. The enemy Gneisenau came back, and he's at about 11 kilometers, so I decided to turn in right here because I was thinking that maybe the Gneisenau was going to turn into me and try to rush me down, because, of course, the Gneisenau has those those 2 triple sets of torpedoes on each side of the ship, which are very dangerous in close quarters combat. Fortunately for me, he does not. So now what I'm going to do here is, after turning a little bit to the right, I am then going to turn back to the left and get all of my firepower to bear over the starboard side of my ship. Now, unfortunately, pretty much all of the friendlies over in the vicinity of C, short of the Molotov, have died. We're down 3 ships to 2, and we're down 338 to 510 at this point. So we got some work that we need to do here. Those guys on the western side really need to get around and continue pushing to the east, because, of course, I'm not going to be able to do it by myself. And now, I do have a broadside shot to work out here on the enemy Colorado, who's at 16.4 kilometers. Another little side note about these guns, very much similar to the American battleships from tiers 4 through 6. You kind of want to get to between 10 and 14 kilometers. That's really the ideal engagement range with all of these standard type battleships, because your accuracy is good enough at those ranges, and you're not close enough where you're going to really get into a situation where you're going to be unable to disengage because of your extremely slow speed. You want to really stay at those standoffish distances, so that if the enemy team does try to be aggressive, you at least put yourself far enough away where you have a little bit of time to try to get out of dodge. And I know that that sounds a little bit strange because, well, Sneaky, this thing has a max speed of like 21.5 knots, but if you're far enough away like that, enemy players will be a little bit more hesitant to still try to run you down, simply because that's still a considerable distance that they do have to make up. And, you know, it might not sound like much, but if they're going, say, 28, 29 knots towards you, and you're running away at 21, 22 knots, they're only overtaking you by 6 knots, and it's going to take them a long time to be able to close that distance. So, in that case, you're still going to have a decent amount of time to try and get out of the way. Now, I do manage to get 7,800 damage on the enemy Colorado, and now this Galissonier is, he's backing up broadside, because that's what you need to do in your cruisers. So as I come around the headland and I do get detection on this guy, he's at 5,900 hit points. I'm looking for the kill shot here to secure my first frag of the game as I'm continuing to dodge airstrikes. And of course, because RNG hates me, I get 4 overpens and I put him down to 966 hit points. So that is now ship number 2 in this game that I came extremely close to killing, but was not able to finish the job on due to, unfortunately, not enough damage being dealt to finish off the kill. So the Furious on our team is now going in for the drop, and before I can get reloaded, some of the shells. Of course, it's a detonation on 966 hit points, which is kind of funny, to be honest, the Leon getting that ridiculous shot in there. Now, I turn to the left, get my forward guns going at the first Furious who's running away, and then I get my rear guns going at the second Furious that's running, or that's actually sitting there stationary. The two shells that hit the first carrier are both Citadels, and then look at that RNG. Right after getting screwed over on the Glissonier, I have 3 Citadels, 5 total shell hits out of the 8 that I shot at 2 different carriers, and with the snap of a finger, I almost doubled the amount of damage that I've dealt in this game. So, yeah, that was kind of funny, to be honest with you guys. I was definitely not expecting that. When I did Citadel, that first carrier with just the 2 forward turrets, the 4 guns, I definitely laughed out loud when I was playing and talking with Angel, because that was definitely unexpected. So, it goes to show you that the Colorado, when the accuracy is working in your favor, when the dispersion is working in your favor, you can get some pretty tight salvos. It kind of reminds me of the Warspite, where it's just really good dispersion. It's, generally speaking, really good accuracy. Now, at this point, you can see that the Shinonome and the Charles Martel are beelining it straight to the east to try and run down those enemy carriers. Now, they're obviously going to catch up to Dirty Casual and his Furious, because he's bow on, and it looks like he was reversing, I guess. So that carrier is going to die, and this Nagato is also in a really bad situation as well. I know I'm going to take some torpedoes here from the Furious, so I don't even bother to try and dodge them. The Colorado does have a very good torpedo belt, as I only take 5,700 points of damage from those 2 torpedoes. I really want to try to get around this headland and try to get some shots up and over the island. And right here, I think that I have just enough leverage to do so, and that's exactly what happens. The next salvo falls in on the target, and the third ship now in this game that I've put down to about 1,000 hit points or less, with the salvo right before he dies. So that's 3 potential kills now that I really feel that I should have, that unfortunately I kind of got screwed over with. So, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. My AA continues to go to work on those planes. I've shut down 15 so far, as both of those carriers have really tried to do a number on me. And now what I'm doing is I'm turning back to the starboard side, and I'm trying to get my guns pointed over to the port. Now, of course, the turret traverse on the standard type battleships is a bit rough, so it's going to take some time. But right now, this Nagato is dealing with some other threats. So I have plenty of time to get my guns turned around, and hopefully after this first salvo with the forward guns, my rear turrets will be ready to go for the next one. And as I was talking about the Great Dispersion, well, unfortunately, that one was absolutely garbage, but 1 pen for 3,000 damage, and I pick up Confederate on 105,000 points of damage dealt. So, you know what? It's okay. As long as you get the 1 pen, you're still dealing an okay amount of damage. So you can see that the Charles Martel was trying to rush down the Nagato to probably torpedo him. Unfortunately, he dies, but that's okay, because the Nagato is at 20k hit points and bleeding, and he is going to die. Now, the 16-inch guns are able to overmatch all Tier 7 battleship bows and sterns, so you can see I am right at the booty of that Nagato, and I get 5 penetrations for 18,000 points of damage. Yeah, really, if any Tier 7 and below BB decides to angle towards you, you can really just punch right through the stern, right through the bow. I guess some exceptions might be the German battleships like the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau, because they do have that armored strip that runs up both the forward and aft sections, but most of the battleships that you'll come across, they have no protection for those kinds of salvos, and that's why at these closer ranges, the Colorado can basically just lull overpen everything battleship-wise that it can meet at its own tier or below. So we finally regain the initiative and the lead, even though we don't have the caps lead. It's 732 to 648. Our friendly Leon Rebel Dawn is running away, but unfortunately it looks like he's going to get run down by all of those enemy ships that are over there, so we need to get over onto the B cap to guarantee this victory. There's only about 6 minutes left in this contest, and we do have a very hefty ship lead of 7-4, so not really too worried about what's going on right now. As soon as we step on the B cap, this game is virtually ours. Even if we do lose another ship or two, we will be able to get it secured for our team. And the Ishmael that's out in front is only on 20,000 hit points. And he did have his engine knocked out, so obviously he was sitting stationary. We're moving very slowly forward for a good length of time. So obviously we're going to be able to run this guy down and kill him off, which is great. The Shinonome is doing standard battle things and running after the lone carrier that's left on the enemy team because, well, that's just what destroyers do. Can't really do much about it. Unfortunately, our Leon does die, but that's okay because Ishmael is going to go down here not too far in the future, and we are also going to secure B. So if you guys haven't noticed, if you drew a line from where I was positioned throughout this game, you could basically go from G4 to the northwest through the A cap and then basically back around D3, D4, D5, and now coming down into I guess D6, and it's really been in the central portion of the map. I've had shots at some enemy ships throughout the entirety of the game, and the most important thing is that I've also been moving with my team and not getting myself caught out in positions where I am alone. So that's obviously another very important facet of American battleship gameplay. I finally managed to secure another kill there on that Soviet battleship, but unfortunately right now I would have a Kraken if all of those other ships died instead of getting reduced to about 1,000 or below hit points, which is just one more overpen for the Colorado. So unfortunately, not working on a Kraken right now, but this is still a very good and a very solid result in the ship. Getting some shots now downrange. Looks like the Bayern and the Miyoko are kind of running parallel to each other, so I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to hit one or both of them. I do manage 9,000 points of damage on the battleship. That would have been kind of funny if I would have had a stray shell go long and hit that Miyoko in the Citadel someplace. But now we've regained the points lead and we have the capture lead, so at this point, even if we lose another ship or two, we're still guaranteed to win this game. And obviously these enemy ships that are moving over in this direction, they're going to get focused down by us if they decide to rush, so we're definitely in the driver's seat. So I got 8 seconds left on my spotting aircraft before it comes back up, and I'm definitely going to use that on the Bayern because he is trying to hide, I guess, behind the island, but of course it's not just extra range that the spotting aircraft comes in handy. It's also for being able to peek over islands and whatnot, so that you can get some good shots on ships that think that they are safe. And you can see here, excuse me, shells going down range. I do get a really nice salvo right there, but I was not rewarded with the damage. 2 pens on the bow and 1 over penetration, I guess, in the center line of the ship for only 5,000 damage. But don't get me wrong, that was still a very great salvo there on that German battleship. He's now down to 12,000 hit points, and he is burning, so I'm going to get the next salvo going down range. Hopefully I'll be able to finish this kill and pick up my 3rd frag of the game. The shells are inbound on the target. The dispersion looks okay. Once again, 2 pens, over 6,000 damage. I pick up the high caliber. I put him down to, 16 or 1,400 HP, and then the fire is going to burn him out. So that could have been kill number 6 in this game, but unfortunately it was not to be. And now this Miyoko does not want to try to come in and potentially make a play to win the game. Instead, he just wants to keep running away, so we're going to throw some shells downrange at him. Unfortunately, on this one, I aimed a little bit too high. I felt that he was going to continue his turn, so that's why I shot where I did. But unfortunately, the salvo was a little bit too long, and I know that based off of the amount of points that we're gaining here with the 2 caps, I'm only going to have time for 1 more salvo at that Japanese cruiser. He did turn into the left, so hopefully I can correct my aim with this one. Aim up a little bit, but again, he kind of jukes me out, and he doesn't turn left as hard as I thought that he was going to. The next salvo falls in, and unfortunately, some shells bracket around the sides of the cruiser. And with that last salvo, we're going to reach 1,000 points, and that will be the end of the game. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results, 372,000 credits received and 13,200 total experience earned. This was not my first win of the day. I picked up Confederate and High Caliber, dealing 155,000 points of damage off of 64 shell hits. I shot down 21 aircraft. I only had 2 frags when it really could have been upwards of 6. I had 3 Citadels and 3 base defense ribbons. Taking a look at the team score, 2,275 base XP. Once again, I really felt like that there were a lot of frags left out on the table that could have definitely boosted my total base XP, but still, in a tier 8 game, technically, more so tier 7 and tier 6, I was able to have a lot of good influence, and I was able to put myself in great positions to be able to deal consistent damage over the course of the game and help my team to victory. And then taking a look at the detailed report, almost all the damage was dealt with the armor-piercing shells because that is the bread and butter of the Colorado. And yeah, I've definitely enjoyed going back and grinding through this ship. And now we're at the North Carolina, so hopefully I can get some North Cal gameplay up for you guys here in the coming week or so. And also, I'll try to get some ranked gameplay up for you as well. I picked up the Bourgogne with some steel on my EU account, so I'm going to be playing that a little bit, and hopefully I can get a good game or two to share with you guys. So thanks for being there for us, and we really appreciate all the time that you guys spend watching our content. I know that sometimes our upload schedule kind of goes out the window, but we don't do that on purpose. Stuff always comes up, but it's nice to be back in the saddle and making content on the reg. So thank you guys once again. And with that being said, this is Snek for BIA World of Warships signing off. Guys and gals, as always, have a great day.